Time to talk about Adobe. At the beginning of June, a big controversy came out. Adobe updated their terms of use and they made many users mad. At the moment, the terms are updated and it looks fine, but the damage has already been done. So what was it all about? Users of Adobe get a notice that some changes have been made to the Adobe General Terms of Use. The problem was, they forced you to agree unless you stopped using their software. But why it was such a big deal? Well, by clicking the button, you're granted Adobe a non-exclusive, worldwide, royalty-free sub-license to use, reproduce, publicly display, distribute, and modify your content, where the content means any text, information, communication material created using the services and software. So basically, they could use your work, whether it was professional work or family photo edits, to train the AI. Many people were frustrated. Artists started to cancel subscriptions and a fuss started. So Adobe had to react to stop it. In short, they finally updated the terms to provide more clarity on a few specific areas. They specify what they don't do, what is your content, and so on. Plus, they recorded the video with their lawyer explaining to normal people the law language, which was unfortunate either.
To make sure the language is easy to understand. We know sometimes legal language only makes sense to lawyers.
Many artists started to look for alternatives. I heard about Affinity Photo the most, so I decided to try it. Is it good for arch-fiz? Let's see. I downloaded the free trial and it is for...
Wait for it.
6 months. No credit card details, nothing. You just create an account and can download it straight away. Also, if you want to buy it, it's a one-time payment instead of subscription. Let's take a look at the software then. The layout looks pretty similar to the Photoshop. We have the Tools panels on the left-hand side. On the right, we have various panels providing essential functionalities for controlling settings. What I found pretty cool is the Stock tab. You can directly drag and drop the stock images from Pexels or Pixabay. It's so convenient. Maybe not precisely for arch-fiz, but if you work on graphic or want to create a storyboard, it might be helpful. On the top, menu and toolbar. However, the biggest difference is here. We have a couple of tabs here called personas. These are dedicated spaces for doing specific tasks. The default one, called Photo Persona, is for photo editing. The Liquify Persona is an environment for distortion of image areas dedicated to retouching and special warping effects. The Develop Persona is for the in-app development of raw images, giving you control of image color and tone. The next one is an environment dedicated to tone mapping images. In the Export Persona, you can output your image, layer, or slice to various image formats. What is totally different in Affinity Photo? The masking. And I have to say, I really like it, but let me show you why. I have black and red layers here. I create an extra layer. I pin something with a black brush. If I drag and drop the layer here, it becomes a part of the layer. I would call it a sublayer. If I change the opacity, you can see that it affects only the dedicated layer. But if I drag and drop it here, it becomes a mask. I really like this workflow, but more on that later. Okay, so when I drag and drop the EXR file, I can see my alpha pass below automatically. Okay. So first, I try to make a mask from this alpha layer. I use the option Rasterize to Mask. Here we go. It worked. Next, I add the background photo. Here it is. It's placed with the actual size. I can scale it down with the Move tool, the same shortcut as in Photoshop. Because the alpha was selected, the image was placed on the RGB. We can place it and adjust it. Now for the adjustments, we can go to Dedicated window. And we can apply the default layer without settings changed, or choose from some presets. You can see it's already brighter. We can still adjust it if we need to. We can have this on top as in Photoshop, but we can also add it to the background layer. In this case, it will affect only the layer that it's applied to. I really like it. It makes everything super clean. We can also add adjustments from here. If the sublayer is selected, then the adjustment layer will be automatically created on the dedicated layer. I want to add a bit of a haze look. To add a solid color, I need to create a fill layer. We can change the opacity here. So we can add more and more layers and all will be here. I love it. Similarly, we can add the sublayers here. But we need to be aware that it will be affecting only this layer. In Photoshop, we would have to click out between the layers. It's sort of similar, but it's way more organized in Affinity, in my opinion. We can add the mask to the sublayer too. We can fill it in the active color using Ctrl+Delete shortcut, and paint with the white brush the places where we want the effect to be visible. Okay, so you can see we have just 2 layers and we've done quite a few things. We can add colors and toggle layers. All pretty similar. We can add a masking layer so we can see how the process goes. Okay, so the center of the placing is in the place your mouse is. We have to use a snap tool to place it correctly. I'm not sure if I like this. We can use the flat select tool to select certain objects. We can use Ctrl to add more to the selection, or we can choose the add mode. Ctrl+Shift+I is the same for invert selection. Let's try curves now to add more contrast. As I want to add contrast only to the original render, I move it to the layer. So now, it won't affect the background. Let's try the vignetting effect. So I will select all, and to make the transformation of the selection, we have to turn on the quick mask here, or use the Q shortcut. Now, let's make the corners rounded. Shift+F6. Awesome, it works the same. But what I like here is that when we change the value, we can preview it straight away, while in Photoshop we have to assign the change and go back if we don't like this. It's way more effective in Affinity. It's annoying that we cannot see the preview in Photoshop, as the effects work differently with different resolutions. I make the corner darker to finish the vignetting effect. You can see the process is smooth. I have no issues with editing the render, even though it's my first time with the software. The main issue was to understand how masking and layers work. Let's see how composing works. I bet it's pretty similar. Yeah, we can just drag and drop the render element and choose the expected mode. For me, screen. We can adjust the effect with the opacity. All the same. Similarly like before, we can add adjustment layers to affect the final effect. We can, for example, adjust the hue. So to sum up, the editing is pretty similar. It works really well for basic post-production. We have groups, we can turn off and on the masking layers the same, and we have various adjusting layers. It's all pretty similar, sometimes it looks a bit different or has a different name. Like levels, for example, it doesn't look the same as in Photoshop. I haven't tested everything, but at first glance, it's all pretty straightforward. As mentioned previously, we have different types of layers for different tasks. We can add all of them from here too. For example, to create a gradient mask, we can create a fill layer and change the solid to linear. Now we can adjust the gradient. And now we can make a mask from it. We also have live filter layers. What is cool, for instance, for the motion blur, we can adjust the effects straight on the image. Pretty cool. We also have live mask layers, for example, hue range. We can pick the color and on the wheel control how the mask is created. Can be handy in some cases, for example, when we want to adjust all the plans. What I found interesting is the states, so we can create various setups to turn on and off a couple of layers with one click. We can filter by color tag, layer type, or layer name. It can be handy when you have lots of masks and you want to create various setups. This way, you can save some time. In general, I think for arch-fiz, it's good software and it can be successfully used for that. It all worked great for what I tried so far. Both software have quite similar workflow. Adobe is obviously way longer in the industry than Affinity, so it has more add-ons, it has more complete features and so on. And we don't have AI tools here, like generative fill, but it's actually why people started to look for alternatives in the first place. So to sum up, after my first use of the software, I think it's a very good alternative for arch-fiz post-production workflow. What's your opinion? Have you tried it yet? Let me know in the comments. If you want to learn about creating visualization workflow, check out our courses. If you want to find out an alternative to Adobe Premiere Pro, check out the video in the top corner. Bye bye!